or the most common G code, and with some examples to show how to use this G code in CNC coding. So the first one is the G00, and this you already see it before. So we said G00 used for the fast traverse. So to move the spindle from one point to the destination, or from the source point to the destination point, without conducting any task. It means just move. Ask the spindle to move from this place. The spindle is located, for example, at the reference point in the beginning. So then I give the coordinates to move to this area. So the spindle become here. Then the spindle go there. So the spindle is not going to conduct any task, just move, rapid movement. Okay. So in this case, we are going to use G00. If you want the spindle to do or to conduct a task, to go through a specific path, not randomly. When we use G00, that means you ask the spindle to move at a fast speed or rapid speed to the destination, whatever is the path that he follow. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Move through here, go there, move directly, move from this way to here. No, just G00 ask the spindle to go to this point. But when we say G01, I'm going to ask the spindle to move in a specific path from the start point until the destination point. But this path will be linear interpolation. That means it will be linear. Linear, that means no circulation. It's not go through arc. It's not go through arc either clockwise or counterclockwise. It's go directly from the point using the linear path to the specific point. Either when we use G02 here, for G02, we are going to use it using or to ask the spindle to move using circular interpolation. So when we say circular interpolation, we are going to talk about clockwise and counterclockwise. We will see later on for each one. The command that we already talked before is also about the absolute and incremental coordinates. So if I give the command of G90, that means I'm asking the machine to follow the absolute coordinates. So all the coordinates after this command, before I decide to change to incremental, it will be absolute. That means if I put this command in the first line of the code, all the line here, or all the blocks in this area will follow the same standard, which is absolute, until I change, as said J91. If I don't change, just it will go through 90, no, without any change. So all the coordinates between the or after this G90 will be absolute coordinates. So absolute coordinates, that means we will use the 0 point, x0, y0, Z0 as a reference point. Then it will measure the position or the command or the next position with respect to the 0 point. But in the incremental, it will use the previous point as its reference. The first will start from 0, 0, then it's go to the next point. This point become reference for the next point. This point become reference for the next point, and so on. So in this case, I should use this. If I want to use the coordinate, the incremental, I should use G91. If I want to use absolute, I need to use G90. So this is how the G00 is worked. So you have spindle at this point. You want the spindle to move from this point to the destination to be close to the workpiece. So you give the coordinate of this point. After, you say G00, then you give the coordinate of the targeted point, X1, for example, Y2, Z3. It depends how many coordinates you work with. Okay, so it will ask the spindle to move at the fastest speed from the start point until the destination point. Then I change mind. I want the spindle to go to other point, to go to this point. Also, I'm going to say X, another X, another Y, another Z. So it depends on it totally depends on the destination point that I want to go to. Okay, so this rapid transverse rate are 10 to 25 meter per minute. That means or what is the rate for this transfer without conducting any task? It would be like from 10 to 25 meter per minute. But it can also reach to 80 meter per minute. The format is like this one. And here is the number, is it 1, 2, 5, 10, 100? What is the number of block? Then you give the command G00, you give the coordinates for X and Y and Z. If you only have two coordinates, you give the two coordinates. If you have one coordinate, you give one coordinate. It depends on where is this point is located. I mean, where is the targeted point or the destination point is located with respect to the current point. So as you can see here, this is example how to write the code using absolute and using the incremental coordinates. So if in the beginning, the spindle will be at the 0, 0, and this will be the 0, 0 point or the point of origin, okay, for our work, for example. So in the beginning, the spindle will be here. Then I want the spindle to move first to reach to this point, which is P1. So I don't need the spindle to perform any task when it moves to this point. Just move. I want it to move here. Then later I will decide what I need to do at this point. So how to send the spindle from 0, 0 to this point? If I'm using the absolute coordinate, so I'm going to write this code. G90, this is absolute. G00 for rapid traverse. Then I need to define what is the coordinate of this point. Now, the coordinate of this point is 2.25 because this is 1. This is 1.25, 1.5, 1.75. This is 2. And here it is 2.25. Okay, this is the x coordinate is 2.25. The y coordinate here is also 0.25, 0.5, 0.75. This is 1. This is 1.25 of y. Okay, now this is the coordinate that I am going to feed to this block. X 2.25, y 1.25. So directly this spindle will move to this point. Okay, to reach to her. So when the spindle is placed at this point, then I decide to move it to the point number 2, which is here. But this time I want to move it using the incremental point, incremental coordinates, not the absolute. If I use the absolute, I need to change the coordinates here for this code. But now I enter another line of code or block. We call it G91. This G91 here, that means use the incremental coordinates for positioning system. Okay, so the incremental coordinate here, what I need to do, you need to move or to rapid traverse from the current position here. This is the G0 for the rapid traverse from the current position at this point until the next point, which is B2. I don't want you to perform any task, just move to this point. So how these coordinates or how this spindle will move, or what the coordinates should I enter here? So the coordinate that we have here, for example, what is the distance from the current position here until I reach to this point on the x-axis? You can see here, this is 1, this is 2, or this -1 or -2 is okay because we have to care about the space only. This only example to show you how to apply the G90, G91, and also how to apply the G00 code. Okay, so this is 1, this is 2, this is 2.25. Okay, so the coordinates here, this is -2, this is -3. Okay, so what is the distance here, or what is the length of this line? It is 3. And the length of this line until this point, it is 2.25. So you have 3 plus 2.25, the total is 5.25. That means I'm going to ask the spindle to move from this point to that point, or from this point to that point, okay, whatever is the current point here. If in the beginning, for example, I ask the spindle to go to here for -3 and I mean for 3 and this one is 1.25. Okay, so then I ask the spindle to go from this point to here. Or if the spindle at this point, I ask him to go to this point. In both cases, the spindle need to move for 5.25 units. So from where I got the 5.25, this is 3, this is 2.25. So the sign of these points or of this coordinate, it depends on should I go left or go right. So if I'm moving from B2 to B1, so it's become like positive point, positive value, because I am moving to the right of the x-axis with respect to point B2. If I move from this point, so this coordinate will become like x negative 5.25, y, the y here, if from this point, I mean, if from the current point here, which is 1.25, the units here, and for this one, it's also 1.25. So 1.25 plus 1.25 is equal to 2.5. So the y here will become 2.5. But if it is from the top to the bottom, it's become like decrement. So it's become like what, minus 2.5, 2.25. Sorry, this one. Okay, this 1.25, and here is 1, not 1.25. Sorry, this is 1. Screen. This point is 1. As you can see here, we have this is 0.25. Here we have 0.5, 0.75. Here we have 1. Here we have 1.25. So at this point, it is 1. So we have this become 1.25 plus 1. So it become like 2.25. Okay, so it become 2.25. So it depends on the sign. I said if from this point I ask the spindle to move to that point incremental, so it's become like negative negative. If the spindle start from this point move to that point, so it's become positive positive. So this formula here applicable that the spindle start from this point, go to that point. Start from point 2, go to point 1. If I want to write it from point 1 to point 2, just I need to add the sign here, negative, negative. Okay, clear? You have question about this example?
No, sir. Clear.
Okay. Others? Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So for this is for the G00. Regarding the G01, we said the G00 just move, no function. I mean, no specific path, no many coordinates. Just they have one coordinate, which is the destination coordinates. But if you want the spindle to move along specific path, which consists from multiple points, like this one, B1, B2, B3, B4, but all points, I mean, all the line between the 2 points are linear lines. It's not circular interpolation, it is linear interpolation. So in this case, you need to use the common G01. So the common G01 here used when you have linear lines and you have multiple points, you need to move the spindle, but with performing some tasks. As you can see here, this is the feed here. This is already close to the part that you want to do. So for example, to do mailing here on this part, the small part here, this small slope represent this part. Okay, and here represent that part, this part. Then you have here the start of this point. So you want the spindle here to move from this point, go to here, then again go to this point, then again go to that point. So you have multiple points. You have, for example, if we say this is point 1, this is point 2, this is point 3, this is point 4. So you have a linear path. You need the spindle to go through. So you are going to use the code G01. So how is the form of the code or the format? G01, you define the coordinates of the nodes, X, Y, Z. If you have 2 axes, you just X, Y or X, Z. It depends on what's the requirement. Then you need to define the feed rate here. So this feed rate, actually, as we said, it's usually calculated, and it depends on what is the task you need to perform. So if we said the feed rate is 10, so you are going to use feed rate is 10. You have feed rate is 50, you are going to the feed rate is 50 and so on. So it depends on the value of the feed rate that you are going to use. Okay, because this feed rate here, it depends on I mean how fast this spindle will go to the part to perform a task on the surface of this part. Okay, so if you want to write the example for this one here, so you just write G01, you define, if you are at this point here, P1, and want to move to P2, the value of the X axis here, if you say this is X, this one is Y, okay, this is X axis, actually this is Y axis, all the positive axis. I am at P1, I want to move to P2, the value of X is not changed. Whatever is the value here. If it's 5, so it's still 5. If it's 10, it's still 10. I move from B1 to B2, only the Y coordinate will change. So for that, we fill up here only one coordinate, which is Y. So we are going to write what is Y here. Is it depends on what is the value of the point here and what is the value of the destination. And depends is I'm using absolute coordinate or incremental coordinate. But this will be the form of the format of the code. Then the point Y or the coordinate of Y will be calculated based on the path from point 1 to point 2. Then next from point 2 to point 3, both axes will be changed. So B2, as you can see, is placed at this area, but B3 will be placed on the other x-axis value. You have, for example, if it's 3, for example. So now I have two coordinates. I have X and I have Y, because also the Y changed from this point until this point. So the value of Y also will be changed. So I'm going to write what is the coordinate of Y here, according to the given information or to the drawing. So these values here depends on these 2 points, B2 and B3, and depends on what is our coordinate system. Is it incremental? So I'm going to find it with respect to the previous reference. If it is absolute, I'm going to calculate with reference to the 0 points. Then from point 3 to point 4, in this case, the x-axis will change, but the y-axis still constant, so no change. So it depends on these 2 points, but I have only one coordinate which is changed, which is the value of x, while the value of y not changed. So for that, it's still continuously, I mean, it's still fixed, no change, no need to mention the value of y here, because it is the same. You already at this point, so it just continue at the same point. Go left by, for example, if this is 1, so it will go left by -2, for example, and or until +1. If incremental, it will be -2. If it is absolute, it will be 1. So to the point of people. So this is how to use the G01 code in the program. This is example here for using absolute coordinate system, and they have the path here starting from B0, and here is the indicator for the 0 point for the machine 0 point. So and the bar 0 point, it's P0 here. Then I have P1, P2, P3. All are linear, so I'm going to use G01. I do not have circular here, so for that we are going to use G01. So as you can see here, this is the required program need to be fed to the MCU of the machine in order to perform such drawing or to follow such path in the drawing. Okay,